here in the same space. Yes, it does. Oh, look at that. She sent the request to join. I accept. She should be here shortly.
Hello, and we are also live on Facebook.
Hello, Facebook world.
Alrighty, let's use that.
Hello, my
Perfect.
friend. How are you?
I'm good. How
And
are
now I have to move
you?
this down and move this over. It's like you never know exactly how it's going to land. Okay, and
Exactly.
now it's time for me to join. 954. And I joined from a different phone and a different account.
It's
Here
all the
I
things, folks.
It's okay. That's
All
right.
the different technologies. Happy
Okay, so
Friday. Happy morning. Thank you, everyone, for having their morning coffee with us. We appreciate it. We have a really great episode in store for you. I'm going to take a little sip of this.
okay, it my thing is moving, 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 and I should be with you guys. Here I am. Ta-da!
Hello.
And I look so dark. I have a ring light on. I don't know what's going on. Do I look dark? I do look dark,
A
don't
little
I?
bit.
I look great on Facebook.
You do.
So
You
I know
do.
the light is on. So I don't know. I mean, seriously, I have like three different lights happening here. And yet I am so dark. I don't know what to tell you folks, but you know what? We're just going to get started with our
We can.
content, and I'm just going to be dark like this. So forgive me. That's just how it's going to be. So, you guys, welcome. Episode number 76. Today we're
Yes.
talking about motorized draperies. We're super excited, as we are, about every single
Mhm.
episode that we do. So, Kim, kick us off, will you?
Okay, so we are going to be discussing today the two particular projects that I'm going to show are motorized ripple fold drapes. So this is a project that we did here for a longtime customer of Window Works. It wasn't done through a designer. She's local here to us in Livingston. And oh, great, just what you're looking for. Well, we have it in store for you. So with this project, as you can see, there are two large windows. And they're at different heights. So the one is like a little dining area that has a step up. And so the
It's
client, because of,
beautiful,
yeah,
actually.
it's a very, very, very beautiful
What kind of
living room.
house is it? Is it
It's a
like
very,
a house? Is it a condo? Where
it's
it's
a house. It's a
amazing.
very contemporary
Mhm.
home here in Livingston. So there are like little pockets of homes where there was an architect, I guess, from back in the 70s or whatnot that did these really cool contemporary designs. So it's a very open floor concept type of floor plan. And you can see here the floor to
Probably.
ceiling windows. And
Yeah,
with the
it's
floor to ceiling
gorgeous.
windows, can you imagine trying to manually open up these drapes every time you wanted to,
Nope.
you know, nope, not at all. So,
Couldn't
the,
even.
yeah, the challenge here was obviously we had to make it two separate because the drapes couldn't touch. And so outlet placement was also very important to us. Luckily, the client had outlets near where the drapes were, so we could plug it in because it is two separate drapes.
What do you mean that the drapes couldn't touch?
If you see there, there's like a little partition
I
wall
do, but why couldn't they touch?
because the wall there was probably about like 6 inches of space. So
Uh-huh.
she didn't want it where the drapes were kind of like overlapping like this and then
Yeah.
going over the wall. She wanted them to just stop
Oh, oh,
part of the
oh, I
wall.
see, because the
Yeah,
the right side is
yes,
over the elevated portion
yeah.
and the left side is over the the
The
lower
lowered floor,
portion.
yeah. So and then you see there's that like little half wall there. And because there's
Mhm.
that half wall there, the decision
Yes.
had to be made. Okay, look,
Yes.
yes,
Right here.
theoretically, could we make them touch at the top? But then you would get one of these
You
effects.
have right, right,
You'd
right,
have
exactly.
like this whole like big pine tree effect. And on something that's this grand, 10-foot high ceilings wasn't really the look that we were going for. So
Of
the
course.
panel on the left stacks over to the left, and the panel on the right stacks over to the right. It is a ceiling mounted rod because it is a ripple fold. The
Mhm,
rod does, or the drape does sit underneath the rod, so the rod is visible. At this
mhm.
time, when we did this project is a couple years old. There weren't decorative motorized rods out just yet,
Yeah,
like
right.
contemporary, sleek looking rods,
Hey,
because
Mimi.
there were rods that there were. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my installers are coming up from the downstairs and they forgot that we're live here. So with with this, we went with just the obviously non-decorative rod. It's white, And
Mm-hmm.
because we were installing it to the ceiling, it was very forgiving because the ceiling luckily was painted a white color. So it just kind of, it died into the ceiling. It was innocuous and whatnot.
Right.
So
Yeah, and actually,
Mimi,
you bring up a really good point. Hey, Mimi, with ripple fold drapes, you do see the rod. So
yes,
whether you do a decorative rod or a one of those utilitarian Kirsch type of rods, you do see the rod, and that's something to be discussed with the client. And so, speaking of the rod, our next slide is actually a picture of what the rod looks like. And Kim even went further, and she has.
I have to stand up to do this. I have a rod here. I dug out a rod. We had a small one in inventory and it's kind of heavy. That's why I'm going to stand up to do this. So you can see here, it looks just like a decorative, like a
Mhm,
non-deco rod. The only difference is this is the drive in the front.
mhm. This
So
is
this
where
is
the
what this
motor
looks like in the
goes.
front. Yeah, so this is this piece here.
Mhm,
And so you're always going to have this thicker piece. Then as you go, you see here the ripple fold carriers that we got going on here. So the drape snaps into
mhm.
this. And then as we go into it, this is the lead carrier
The
right
master
here. This
carrier.
is an yep, the master carrier. This is an
Mhm,
overlap. So you can see here, not thought master. So it is flat.
mhm.
And then right here is the motor.
It's heavy, isn't it?
That's why I have to stand because
I mean,
it is
it's like the
heavy.
size of Alexa, like a
Yeah.
old-fashioned Alexa.
So you see this here, we cannot hide this. You know
Mhm,
what I mean? Like we can't make this smaller. It is what it is. But
mhm.
luckily with the drape, we can have it so that the drape comes over this way and returns back. So it is hidden within a pleat. But if
Yeah,
you're going for something that's super sheer, you will
mhm.
most likely see it. And then
That's
here
right.
is the cord
Mhm,
that it gets plugged into. So it is just a three-pronged cord. This is why outlet placement is important.
mhm, mhm,
And you can select, depending on the company, the
mhm.
length of the cord, because I've had situation where it was over 10-foot high ceilings and we had to request a special extra long cord
Mhm.
to accommodate the motorization.
Right. And so the good thing about these rods, I find, and in terms of the placement of the plug outlet, is we have done projects where we had access to the electrician or he was doing other work in the house and
Mm-hmm.
he could put the outlet right by the motor.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy enough to plug it in. We don't have to request a super long cord. Or in those instances where we didn't have access to the electrician and we had to look for that outlet somewhere at the regular level, then yes, in those instances, you have to make sure to measure the distance from the motor to the outlet and then run that cord along the drape most likely and then take it over to the outlet. But either
Okay.
way, like you said, it's a three-prong cord, a three-prong plug, so it's easy enough to plug it in. There's nothing special that's necessarily required.
And Mimi has a question if it could be hardwired or is hardwire an option?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And yeah, you can pretty much hardwire anything. The issue with hardwiring most times, of course, we know is if the walls are closed up, they need to be opened. And
Mm-hmm.
if they're not, it's brand new construction. So all of those decisions have to be made ahead of time.
Yeah.
So Mimi, if you are in the position, which is a great position to be in, I personally love to be brought into the projects early enough
Yeah.
before the walls are closed up if the designer or the architect is savvy enough to think through the electrical plan and the window treatment plan as it relates to the electrical plan. So they bring us in those instances to say, we want to have motorized rod at this location. What kind of pocket do you need? What kind of wiring do you need? And where do you need your outlet? And Mimi, though, to your point is, can it be hardwired? Like, where do we need to have a junction box? So that we can hardwire into that junction box. You know, the actual splicing can be placed into that junction box. So yes, both ways are possible. With drapes, unlike roller shades, any kind of plug-in roller shade, it's more forgiving because you can hide the
Mm-hmm.
cord and the plug. So
Yeah.
hopefully that makes sense, Mimi. Let
And
us know
with
if you have any other questions.
these rods, you do have the ability to do a center draw and then
Hmm.
one-way draws. So
Yep.
there
Well,
is that
okay. So speaking
flexibility.
of the one-way draw, so here I have this picture. We featured it before, I think, on in sheer presentation or some other topic. But a lot of times the same picture goes, it can be used in various
Hmm.
topics. This is a ripple fold sheer drape, and it is motorized. And here we are. Here I have a video for you of it going. Um, of traversing. So you have two different windows, and one of the windows is got it. Okay, good, Mimi, I'm glad. And one of it is traversing to the right and stacking to the left, which is the one that you're seeing right now. And the second window, which is panning over right now, this one is um, a split draw. So here you can see how it's coming together there on the further out window. But the bigger one, that's the single draw, and it goes to the right, and then it stacks on the left, and that's because there is a door actually that leads out into the balcony.
And now for this one, Vita, did you use a non-decorative motorized rod, or it looks like it's a decorative rod?
This was a decorative fascia, so I
Hmm.
believe we used United Supply and their Metals by Select
Hmm.
collection. So it is a decorative fascia with the motorized traverse ride behind it.
So, and I have, we just tried a new rod from Forest. They're motorized. It's not Somfy, but it is a motorized rod where it looks like a decorative traversing rod. So it's not, doesn't have a fascia. It's
Mhm.
just all in one, still has the same motor on the side.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
but
so interesting. Okay.
so yeah, we just used it for the first time this past winter.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a little bit of a challenge because it wasn't our typical Somfy motorization. So anytime I throw that at my installers, like, hey, we're putting this up, they're like, what kind of a motor is it? I'm like,
Yeah.
Forest.
So,
So
okay, so was there a proprietary motor? We have done some things with Forest, I feel like, but mostly our projects are with Somfy for sure.
yeah,
With
so
Somfy motors, because most hardware companies use Somfy motors in their
yeah.
hardware.
So they seem to figure out a way to make a decorative rod without it needing a fascia. And so it just looks like any other decorative traversing rod.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Huh. You'll have to tell me where in the Forest book that is, or if it's brand new, maybe they just have it on their website. It'd be very interesting to
No,
look at.
it's been around for a while. So
Okay.
it's definitely like if you look through their catalog, they have their regular traversing rods and then they have their motorized section. And it's
Mhm.
something because I am, if you guys are new to Window Treatment Friday live, I am a drapery hardware junkie. I love it. It's one of my favorite topics to discuss. I can talk about it all day long. And so I've been really wanting to use that rod for a really long time since they've launched it. And finally, I
Cool.
had the opportunity to do so. So it's pretty cool.
And so what was your installer's feedback as far as programming the motor and dealing with plugging it in and all that stuff?
It was a little challenging because it was new and it was the
Okay. So
kind of
it's
thing.
different. It's
It's different.
significantly
Yeah,
different from
it
Somfy then.
it is different. So when
Okay.
anytime you're learning something new, and especially it wasn't something that like, some few products you can learn like when you've dealt with one Sunfy product, you kind of get the gist of how to program it. And so when they're on the job trying to program it,
Yeah.
um, that's where we allotted time for that because it was a new motorization system.
Yeah, I understand. Okay,
Cool.
cool. Good to know. I'll have to look through it. So it's Forest, you said.
It's
Forest
Forest, yes,
hardware. Good
yeah.
to know. Okay,
Okay.
next project.
So this is another example of a ripple fold shear that is just a simple center open. The motor is on the left side because of where the outlet placement is. We opted to go with a center open in for this particular project because it is like a larger sliding glass door. It is a 3-panel sliding glass door. And
Because I can see the
yeah,
three panels
the three
peeking through.
panels there. And this particular client did not want the ripple fold super full, so we went with an 80% fullness,
Mhm.
which we have covered in other episodes. So if you go back to our ripple folds episode, we go through all the different fullnesses there. And again, just like the video that Vita showed before with the Somfy remote, you do have the capability of just opening and closing it. You can set a favorite setting where you can get to that channel if you do a multiple channel remote. You also can, with this is only one pair of drapes, so it only required a one channel. But when you have multiple motorized products, so if you are doing motorized drapes and have motorized shades, they can all be put on the same remote. So it's not necessarily like you need a remote just for your drapes and just for your shades, if they're from the same motorization company. That's the key. So
Right, it has to be
yeah,
Somfy. Like you can't
yeah.
have Somfy rod and Hunter
Hunter
Douglas
Douglas
shades
products.
and
Yeah.
put them on the same. As a matter of fact, we just had a situation like that with a house where we wanted to do roller shades with Hunter Douglas, and then they also wanted to do a panel track. And
Hmm.
Hunter Douglas could not provide us with the panel track that we wanted with it being able to be plugged in the way we wanted it and have a rechargeable motor, essentially is what we wanted. Hunter Douglas's Skyline, it has to be plugged in at all times. So we had to go with the Skyline with somebody else, which resulted in two different remotes and ultimately in two different apps for them too. So they had to go into the Hunter Douglas's app on their phone to control, and then into Rolly's Acmeda app to control
Hmm.
their shades. And so that became a deal breaker. So we ended up going with abandoning Hunter Douglas Skyline in favor of Cooley's panel track, so that
Hmm.
everything could be controlled with one app and one remote.
Yeah, and so
That's definitely a big consideration.
these are definitely things that you have to kind of talk about and you know have these conversations to discuss, especially when you're doing motorized products, because there are only two that I know of. Well, no, excuse me, three. So Forest has their motorization, then you have Somfy motorization for rods, and then Lutron. So with that, if you want them all to talk to one another, then these are the conversations that you have to have prior to anything being fabricated.
Say that again. Those are the three companies for rods, you said.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I know Forest,
yeah, yeah,
Somfy, and
yeah.
then Lutron
Right.
that
Right.
I know of. Now,
That's how I know as well. You're right. Mhm.
so if you're out there and you're like, no, there's another one,
I'm
let
sure
me
there
know,
are. Yeah,
because
I would love to
I
know.
would love to know.
But that's how I know as well. And our
Yeah,
go-to has been Somfy.
yeah, us too.
But I will try Forest next time.
Yes,
So this is a
very
project
good.
that we recently did in Philadelphia, Center City. This was for Hank Design. Christina Hank is at the helm of the firm, and she is growing her firm like crazy. I think she's got like 5 or 6 people now working for her in the span of
Nice.
maybe like a year or two. So she's definitely somebody to watch out for. This was an amazing project. I think 5-story condo, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, there's an elevator, and this was a theater room, so we wanted to block as much light as possible, and especially there in that window that you're seeing up straight ahead, we wanted to completely cover it. And if let me give me just one second. Let me see. I have a video. One of them plays that big room, so that big window opening. Okay, so this one is closed. It's just our installer is just panning over, and then this one I think will show the big one opening up or closing. There it is. Yeah. So there again, the Somfy remote. It is a door, and it takes you out to a patio. So it's a pretty quiet motor. I mean, it's not like super duper quiet, like you can't hear it at
Hmm.
all, but it's nothing, it's not super loud either. There's a little bit of noise for sure, but the convenience of just pressing the button and being able to close a big window like that is pretty remarkable, if you ask me, especially in a high-end condo or a luxurious home for your high-end luxury clients. I think motorization is definitely something to try to upsell. And that's actually something that I would love to talk about next, Kim. Do you, when you sell window treatments, when you present, when you give your knowledge points, do you usually ask people if they would like to opt for motorization?
I do, and I often talk about, I use Luann as an example. Um, when she first moved into her condo, I don't know how many years ago, but it was just at the start of when um, people were starting to really use motorization. And we kept going back and forth and we were designing her window treatments. And then she decided, you know what, I'm going to just do everything in my master bedroom motorized because she has two very large windows where we did blackout roller shades. And blackout shears, or not blackout shears, and shears over top.
Mhm, mhm,
So in the morning, she likes to open things up to let light in, start her day. But then when she leaves for the day, she wants to shut everything down to keep, the room cool in the summertime and whatnot.
mhm.
And so she often would say, I just click my all button and all my window treatments just start moving. And as I'm walking out the door, then all of a sudden, my I could hear like the roller shades stop,
Like whirring.
stopping and everything else. So she's like, so yes, can you imagine if I had to go to every shade, put
Yeah.
it down, close the drapes, go to the other window, close it down. So from that aspect, it is nice to just be able to click a button and they all move and they all function.
Mhm,
I have clients who the snowbirds. We have a lot of clients that live in Florida for the winter, and they often are like, I really like it to make it look like we're home. So
mhm,
then we go through the whole, well, if you motorize your shades, we can, you can control them from a timer from your phone, the same way you can control your lights. So it looks like, oh, their window treatments are moving. So there are different scenarios, but I always do try to sell motorization because that is the way that it's going. So
mhm.
why not? You know?
Especially nowadays in the age of smart homes and home
Yes.
automation. That's another thing that we usually mention. If we see that the family is, it's usually either on the older side and they don't want to be manually closing all these heavy drapes, or it is slightly on the younger side. Approximately how much more percent wide does motorization? Okay, we'll talk about that. Um, or on the younger side, and if we're in the home and we see that they have Alexa, that they have the Nest, that they have all sorts of gadgets with them at all times, that they're probably on Zoom calls as we're having that appointment with them. I mean, you can tell
Yeah.
that the customer is technologically savvy. So we present motorization as an option. I mean, it's certainly not something that we ever push, but we do say, as an alternative to the cord that you will have on this drape or on this roller shade, you could have this controlled via an app on your phone. Is that something that you might be interested in? And of course they're interested. Of course, it then comes down to it doesn't everything come down to the price, but then it's like, okay, how much more is it?
Yes.
And so to answer the question, what we have found is it is in the range of about 50 to 75% above
Yes.
what the otherwise that
Manual.
cost would be. What did you find? What have you been
No,
finding?
I find the same thing too. So, and we just depending on like the size of the shade, that's a different motor, different things. So yeah. So, and we have no problem breaking it out too. Like
Hmm.
we'll say if motorized, add these,
That's
add
right.
this to the
That's
cost.
exactly what we do. So we'd say like, all your line items, let's say it's $5,000. If you'd like to motorize it, add $4,000 to the cost.
Hmm.
Or another way of saying it, you give them motorization option. You say it's $10,000. If you opt out for the manual, then it will be 6,400. I don't know. I just made
Yeah.
up the numbers. I don't know if
Yes.
they work, but you know what I mean. So
And
you can approach it either way. Start high and give them the lower option, which I think actually is probably the better way to go. Or you
always.
give them the lower option and then give them the upcharge.
Yeah, always, always. And it also too, it depends. There's a couple of factors that go into it. You know, how big is the shade? How big is the drape? Because then depending on what the weight is, it's a different motor. It's a different so there's a bunch of different things that go into it. So
But I think at the end of the day, it's always worth it to get a quote for motorization.
absolutely.
Even if you forgot to mention it to the client, even if you didn't talk about it, if you think that it's in service to the client, then it's definitely worth to get that quote and present both quotes to the customer. And I also find that anytime you start talking about home automation, smart home, controlling your window treatments from anywhere in the world, that's what's really getting people's interest buds
Yes.
going.
Well, anytime I'm dealing with new construction, that's the first question that I ask the designer, is this a smart home? Is there an AV team already hired out to do, the lights and the whole wiring? Like, is there someone on site that I need to speak to, or is this even something that your client was even thinking about? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, no, they don't want anything motorized. We don't want, or it's, oh, you know what, that's a thought. Let me go back to my client and ask them, if this is something that they want to consider.
Right, exactly. So I hope you guys enjoyed our short and
Yes.
sweet episode here of motorization. Of course, there's so much more to tell and so much more to talk about, but we tried to keep it short and sweet, kind of bite-sized information just to get your just a few facts for you to know and be equipped with next time you are in the customer's home and you want to present it, or maybe a little bit afraid, but now you have that many more knowledge points to start talking about it. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yes. 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 Okay.
Oh, here we
And
go. Luann's
one
podcast.
Yes, and to keep up with all things Miss Luann, 'cause she has a lot of fun stuff happening. Right now, we are in the middle of Luann University, so I am taking Vita's class. So it has been a really great time learning a lot of different nuggets from this paperless wonder over here. The way she runs her systems and
uh,
everything else, it's always really interesting to see how another
Company
window
does
treatment
it.
company does it. And it's like, huh, okay, now we've at our office, we have now adopted the 80/20. Like we know that the whole 80/20, but
Yeah.
Catherine jokes here. She's like, I agree with 80/20, but our 20, man, they really anyway, so yeah, to keep up with all things Luann and to listen to the audio version of this podcast, in which this whole thing started, head on over to luannigera.com and you can see what she's up to.
Hmm. And of course, before we let any of you guys go, we want to let you know that we have a couple of gifts for you from Vitalia Inc. You have a free curated lookbook filled with inspiration and education. We call it 37 and a half window treatment ideas for you to use, swipe, and steal. Use, steal, and swipe, and use immediately in your next design project. It's got all sorts of different styles, different situations, different windows. It even has video excerpts from some of the presentations that I've done that teaches you about some of the terminology, lingo, and some of the technical things on window treatments, which are a lot of fun.
And if you are new to the window treatment game, Luann wrote an ebook. Architectural Digest isn't coming. 10 things you need to know about custom window treatments. It is a window treatment 101 guide. So head on over to the WindowWorks website, windowworksnj.com, and download your free copy today.
Hmm. And if you guys are in the Philadelphia area, if you're an interior design firm looking for support with your window treatment projects, please give me a call, DM me, PM me, email me. Vitalia Inc. is a one-stop shop, your sole go-to source for all things window treatments, exclusively for interior designers ready to fly first class in the world of window treatments. So if you're looking for a true partner, somebody who has your back at all times, somebody who makes you look like a hero at the end of the day, I would love to support you guys.
And if you are in the New Jersey, New York area and you have a motorization project that you just don't know where to start with, please give us a call here at WindowWorks, whether it is a motorized window treatment or a motorized awning.
Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. Every Friday morning at 9 a.m., Kim and I hang out here on Instagram and on Facebook, and we banter and we geek out on all things window treatments. Every week, there's a different topic that we try to unpack, that we give you our war stories on the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what we're here for.
Alrighty, everyone. And if it's Friday,
It's WTF Live, Window Treatment Live. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great weekend.
bye.